hopefully for too long. When Debbie and I began to adopt, which was 1982, many of you, or most of you are probably not here or very young. We adopted in 1982, and I won't go into the whole story, but I will say that everything back then was pretty much cash, unless you had, you know, the grandfather or grandmother or something. There were no adoption tax credits, there weren't anything. And if you adjust the, what an adoption cost internationally back then, and figuring in the tax credits and the adjustment for inflation and everything, it actually costs less out of pocket today than it did in 1982 for adoption. So it really does work. We had the experience, Leah brought back the memory night. We had the experience back in our day of the home study actually being where the lady was checking for dust on top of door casings, and she was opening, but I remember opening our bathroom doors and looking in the drawer, and I said, "What are you checking for?" I like to see how people arrange the toothbrushes and toothpaste, because that tells me what kind of organized people they are. And we were. My background was youth work, construction, and at that time, because the economy had tanked under President Carter, I was working in a Hormel meat plant. And we didn't know any different. And I didn't like social workers after that at all. I never expected to be doing adoption work like this, but our life just kind of kept moving in that direction. So we've been through the process. But one of the big challenges was, the first adoption was great. We didn't have any kids, we saved the money. We bought a car, big cash, and we paid for our first adoption. And then reality hit, because Debbie didn't work. And so when it came time for the second adoption, thankfully I did have an aunt who came over one day and said, "I'm gonna give you the loan and you pay me back." You know, a lot of people don't have that luxury. And so that's why, you know, we wanted to, about maybe 8-9 years ago, I think I was with Brian London, back when Brian was together. We got talking about adoption loans, and America's Christian Credit Union at that time was just thinking about doing them. We don't want all this on tape when we do it. You're gonna let me decide where it starts. But I'm giving you all the background. So there wasn't a lot of adoption loans out there, except the kind that were in the 15 to, I heard, up to 22 and 23%. And it was killing people because it didn't work. So Natalie's gonna tell you the rest, but, so I will do the introduction official here tonight, and she can give you the whole thing. But we're just thrilled to have them here. So we're really excited tonight at New Beginnings to have Natalie DePratt from America's Christian Credit Union with us. And she's just absolutely flat out an expert in the adoption loan arena. And without further comment, Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. This is exciting for me. I live in Southern California, and where America's Christian Credit Union is based out of Glendora, California, and we have a few branches. We have, well, now actually we're down to one branch in Azusa. But like Tom said, our adoption loan program kind of just came from a few people talking. Our CEO at first was just absolutely not. I mean, he's never heard of anything like that. It was way too risky. Just, you know, shut it down really quick. And the more he heard about it, you know, thank goodness people were still continuing to pursue it and really talk to him about it. And he opened up his heart and he realized, you know, we are all, you know, adopted by God. So what better way to live out our mission as a Christian credit union to be able to help these families be able to afford adoption and not have the predatory lending in the, you know, like you said, the 22-23% range, and that is what was out there. So what I'm going to talk to you about is a little bit about the different programs, kind of how we've evolved. When I've been with the credit union, let's see, for about close to 18 years. I was gone for about 1.5 years and have been back since 2008. And when I came back on, we had 2 adoption loans on the books, and they were actually relatives of employees at the credit union. So it was a very new program. We have now done over 1,250 adoptions. So like she said too, that there's heartbreak. We've seen it all. We've seen unfortunately seen our families be on the end of, a not so honest birth mother, but we've also get to experience all the joy that we walk through with these families, because it is a long journey. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what our credit union has to offer. And I believe all of you received, this is our newest flyer, actually just was printed on Friday before I left to come out here. And this just gives you a really quick view of the three main adoption loans that we do. However, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why we're different and how we look into different ways with financing and trying to make it affordable for you. Okay, so many families believe that they can't afford adoption. At ACCU, we've designed affordable solutions for families to cover adoption-related expenses. Like I said, when we started out, we didn't really understand how the how the adoption process worked. And by partnering, networking with different adoption agencies, working with the National Council for Adoption, it's a learning experience for us as well. So as we learn more about what is important to families and how the process works, we've kind of tailored some of our adoption loans to be able to be more beneficial for you guys. Since 2009, ACCU has helped over 1,250 children find their forever home. Our products include our our adoption loans, which are going to be our traditional adoption loan. It's an unsecured loan. Our max loan amount is $50,000. We work with you guys, and we try to talk to you about all different kinds of ways for financing, for fundraising, grants, different ways for you to try to come up with as much free money as possible, because an adoption loan for $50,000 is a heck of a payment. And, we want you to be able to get as much free money as possible and have the adoption loan be, kind of at the end, that tie-up of what you still need after you do your fundraising. We have a lot of families that might need to borrow more up front, and then they do their fundraising as they go, and then they put large chunks back down onto the loan, and what we do is re-amortize that for you so we can get that payment down to a real comfortable spot for you. So we have like I said, the traditional adoption loan. That's going to be the first one that's listed on there. It's unsecured, not tied to anything. We do not repo your children and you do not pay, but and I have had that question. What happens if, we didn't pay? I'm like, we don't come and take your children, but it is unsecured. So it's a higher risk. You're going to have a little bit higher interest rate. The rates do start at 8.4, which is extremely low for an unsecured loan. I don't know if you've ever gone out there and, your local bank, if it's somebody local and they know you really well, they may have a really, great rate for you. But the terms might not be as beneficial as well. We do go out to 84 months, so it helps make that payment a bit more affordable for you. We also offer a home equity line of credit. This has actually become more popular in recent times. We were talking a little bit earlier. I don't know how it is here in Mississippi as far as home values, but where I'm from in Southern California, we've seen the real highs and the real lows of the economy. And back probably in that 2009, 2000, to 2011 and 12, we saw a lot of properties lose their value tremendously. But over the last couple of years, we've seen that value go way back up again. So families now are able to tap into their equity in their home. And what that means for you guys is a lower payment amount, because you can spread that payment out for a longer time. It also means a lower interest rate for you, because it is secured with your home. You're looking at rates probably in the high 3s to low 4s on a home equity line of credit, as opposed to an 8.4 on an unsecured loan. So that's an option for you.
Interest on the unsecured, since it's an adoption loan, is it tax deductible, or just the home equity line?
What he was asking is if that interest on the home equity line of credit is tax deductible. I am not a tax. Yeah, it probably most likely is, but I am not.
Probably not.
No, not on the unsecured. It is not. But on the home equity line of credit, you need to consult your tax, because it depends just everywhere else. But
buy a home, it should be.
right, it should be. But I don't know what the rules are with doing that as the write-off and then getting the tax credit. So that's where the tax, accountant, somebody who's a CPA who's, more versed in that. I know that I don't.
Yeah, and we do have a connection. with
Yeah, I was just going to say, Bill's Tax Service.
Any questions like that, we can direct them to the
Right.
person. We have a contact.
So again, with networking with this, and we refer people as well. Bill's Tax Service is an expert in adoption taxes, and they have special clearance from the IRS that they can do tax preparation for anybody across the United States. It does not have to be, most of the time you have to do a tax preparation with somebody in your state. It does not have to be that way with them because they have a special tax clearance, and they are very well versed and very experienced in the adoption tax credit arena. So they would definitely be somebody you'd want to talk to about that. Sorry. So let me go back to what our next type of loan that we offer. We offer what's called an auto cash out equity or refi. We have people that come to us that, a lot of times don't understand the equity that they have or what they can use for a lower interest rate. We have people that have cars that are paid off in full, that you can actually use the equity from a vehicle to get a loan. And then we have auto loans, probably as low as 1.99 at our credit union. So you may be able to get a portion of that loan instead of paying that unsecured rate. You can use the equity in your car and get a lot lower interest rate for, a portion of it. Where we also talk to people about that is when they come to us and they may have a lot of unsecured credit, a lot of credit cards, and they're trying to get their finances in order. We do suggest that you use an auto cash out refi if that's an option for you, because you're going to be paying that debt off and then having a lower interest rate for it too. You have to be smart about it because you have to think, how long am I going to keep this car? Because that is, going to be an option. If it's something that that you're not going to keep for very long, to go and pay that off, you're not going to have that equity that you would if you didn't own it out free and clear. So, it's just another option for you, something that we've seen a lot of families actually take advantage of. They might do, $10,000 on an unsecured loan at 8.4, and then they might do the rest of it on a car loan for around 3%. So that's just an option for you. We also have our Adoption Grant Visa card. This works more like a line of credit, similar to how a home equity line of credit would work for you. A lot of times you don't need all the money up front. You might need it in phases. So this kind of allows you to just draw off of it as you need it. The interest rate on a Visa card is going to start a little bit higher at 10.9. And with that, you can pay as you go along. What we suggest is if you're using the Visa, you'll pay until your adoption's completed, and then we'll take that amount that's on the Visa and put that into the traditional adoption loan, where then you have a set term, and then you're going to be paying that off in, whether it's 5, 6, or 7 years at a lower interest rate than what's on the Visa card. A perk to that as well is we offer a grant for our families. So when you're looking to apply for grants, you can apply with our credit union. Whether you take a loan out or not from us, you are eligible to apply for a grant. They aren't large grants. They're about $500, and we give one every quarter. But that Visa, every time somebody swipes it and uses it, there's a portion of that goes back into that adoption grant fund. So it's other families trying to help others to get, a grant along the way. So, as we build that product up and the amount that's coming back into that product, we're hoping that we can grow our grants as well and be able to give either more of them out or a larger portion. So ACCU also looks at your complete financial portfolio to find the best solution for the family, whether it's the cash out refinance, to free up cash for your adoption costs. What we really pride ourselves in is the best thing to do is when you're just thinking about getting this adoption process going, give us a call. We have several loan officers, about 4 or 5 of us, that will take the time to go over your whole credit portfolio to try and make sure that you are set for when you may need a loan. You may end up being able to raise all the money and not need it, and that's the perfect scenario. But sometimes what we find are families that have been matched and they need the money now, and they haven't thought about that, or they haven't consulted anybody, and it gets down to that point, and you have too much debt, your debt to income ratio is too high, what you have left over every month, and then you get down to that crunch time, and then you're kind of backed up against a wall. And again, we're trying what we can do to say yes, and how we can say yes, and if that means we get somebody that can co-sign with you, that maybe your credit's not so great, but your monthly obligations are fine and you can afford the payment, we might have somebody co-sign with you to make that a little bit stronger of a loan. But if we can talk to you in the beginning, we can kind of say, this is where I see that needs to be worked on before you apply for the loan, and gives you an idea of what to work towards to not obviously guarantee what your approval is, but give you a better chance of getting approved there at the end. We have people from all walks of life coming to us. I mean, whether you have low income or whether you have very high income. And where some people don't think, I wouldn't need a loan, I'm going to have the cash, I can pay for it. Sometimes you don't want to just empty out that savings account. $30,000 is a lot of money to come out of a savings account. If you can afford the monthly payment and you can get a loan that's, good enough rate for you, even if it's temporary, it helps, free up that cash for you and then be able to afford the loan as well. We have others on the other side of the spectrum that we look at it, and they may not have any debt at all. They may not make a lot of money, but they don't have any debt. Therefore, this would be their only payment, and they can work it out that way. But it's just, that we want to be a resource for you, and we don't want you to have to wait to that last minute. We want to try and get this information out to you in the beginning, so that it's something that's in the back of your mind when you're going through the cost and you're trying to plan this out. Is this going to be feasible for me? So at ACCU, what makes us different is you get more than a bank. We're a full service financial institution. With ACCU, your banking supports ministries, and we are passionate about supporting the work of organizations that help 143 million orphans worldwide. And what I say about that is, like I said in the beginning, we didn't know anything about the adoption process, but through partners such as New Beginnings, National Council for Adoption, our staff goes to many of these conferences so that we can be more understanding when you guys are walking the journey and we're having to work through you. We understand what it means to have your completed home study or where you're at in the next step, and kind of can build your loan around, or your needs around, where you're at in the process. So we're taking it upon ourselves to try and educate ourselves as much as possible, so that we understand where you're coming from. Another thing that we talk about a lot with not just the adoption financing, but just with people in general, when you're choosing a financial institution, we are not a big name bank. We don't have shareholders. Our members are our shareholders. So the money that you invest in us, whether it's through investment, through loans, it's going back to serve God's kingdom. We do ministry accounts. We do church financing. So we do the adoption loans, and that's probably like the number one thing when I have people come up to me and say, why are you different? And I talk about our adoption financing, because that's something that I know that others don't have. And immediately there's that connection, whether somebody knows someone who's adopted, whether they've adopted themselves, family members, somebody somehow can connect to that, and it just really sets us apart from other financial institutions. We know that your basic services, your checking accounts, your car loans, everybody offers the same type of financing. It's just, what we have it going back to, speaks volumes compared to a lot of the big banks. So with that, I know I kind of went through that really, really quick. If there's any questions, feel free to, pass them up to me. If you want to talk totally off the subject or off camera, I can do that for you as well. But really, we wanted to be able to just introduce the portion of it. It's not easy to talk about finances ever. And I mean, I know I work in the financial industry, and I don't like to talk about it, or I don't like to think about it. It's kind of the head in the sand sometimes. But you're making a huge decision in adopting, and you just want to make sure that when you bring that child home, that you feel good about where you're at. Because, raising a child is extremely expensive. My daughter's going to be 18 this week, and I'm sending her to college in 6 weeks. And it literally brings me to my knees when you think about how much money that is. But because we've kind of planned along, she's received scholarships, and you want to be able to feel good about the whole process and have that good feeling when you bring that child home and not think, should I have taken that loan? Can I really afford it? And is that going to be a burden on our household? So we really want to be able to work with you and talk about, even if we can't say yes right now, we want to be able to be part of that, planning session for you. How can we help you get your finances in order so that you're better prepared? And whether it's taking an adoption loan or whether it's, referring you to somebody who can help with fundraising or applying for grants and so forth, that's what we want to be a part of as well. So if there's any questions, I'm available. Yes, Tom?
So if the whole adoption is gonna cost $30,000.
Mm-hmm.
Ballpark, good number. And I'm not sure how much I'm gonna need in the end. I can come and get approved for 20.
Yes, you can, really what we tell people when they go to, because they say, how much do I apply for? And I always tell them, apply for the maximum that your adoption is going to cost. If you come back to us and tell us you only need $15,000 out of the $30,000 we approved you for, that's great. But we wouldn't want you to get approved for 15, and I have seen this where families come back and then they're like, we need 10 more, or we need this, and maybe we can't do the 10 more. We will always tell you what we can do. So if you apply for $30,000 and we can't qualify you for $30,000, we will come back and say, we can't do 30, but this is what we can do. And we talked to the families too, is that going to help you? Because we don't want you to take out a $15,000 loan and not be able to come up with the rest, and then you're kind of stuck with the loan and not being able to move forward. So it's better to get approved and to make sure that fits into your budget, the larger amount, and then we can always work down from there. Again, like I said, we always try to re-amortize the loan too. So if you have things come through and you have the adoption tax credit and you have a large, chunk of money able to put down, they did mention the refund. Why it's so important for us to get that back into effect is that came across with the tax credit. If you don't have tax liability, the tax credit's not going to help you as much, because it's going to it'll give you that credit, and as you're paying taxes and your liability grows, it will help cover that, but it's not going to come back to you in the form of a refund the way it was before. And we had families that would get the refund and they would essentially pay like more than half of their adoption loan off, like in one lump sum. And then we'd re-amortize and bring that payment down for them to make it more affordable. So it's really important to continue to fight for that, which I know that the adoption advocates all over are always trying to fight to get back the refund status on that. So that's money back in your pocket when your adoption is completed.
Our senators have supported that, both our senators and the late Representative Nunley did. I'm hoping that Trent will do the same. But if you have contacts with our congressman, please contact them and tell them we need the tax refund back. And it is, right now, it's back in Congress in South.
Yes. And
according to Chuck.
yeah, and they're constantly working on that, to have something be more favorable for you guys. Because again, unless you have that tax liability, the credit is not going to help you much, where the refund is actually the money back in your pocket.
Is the refund on a federal level or state level?
I believe it's on the federal level. Yes. That is who would do the credit.
There is a $2,500 state tax credit in Mississippi.
I don't know state to state, but we do see, people getting somewhat of a refund because they do have that offset for their liabilities. But like I said, it's not going to be the big chunk of money that you're going to get if you get it in the refund status. But we have other ways that families pay down their loans as well. If you have, it's always good to check with your employer. A lot of companies don't maybe like advertise it, or talk about it, but they do have a credit back or an kind of a grant type of thing, so a reimbursement for an adoption cost. So if you are checking with your employer to see if that's an option. I know our employer, we offer $5,000 grant is what we call it, but we offer $5,000 as an employee reimbursement if one of our employees does an adoption loan. So, it's always checking all the different avenues, checking the different grants. When they mentioned finance, adoption coach Kelly Ellison does a great job trying to keep up with all of the grants and knowing who's still offering them, what the cutoff time is, and when you need to apply by, what the qualifications are. You're going to be running yourself ragged. So to have that service with New Beginnings is huge because you're going to get that at no extra cost to you. So you'll be able to have somebody going out there and providing that updated information for you on grants. And she has some great ideas too about fundraising. It's also asking, it's hard to ask for help, but you see that stuff out there all the time for GoFundMe accounts, asking family and friends, to be part of your journey. And you don't necessarily have to ask them for money. If you just talk about your journey, ask for prayer, and ask for support, I can guarantee there's people are going to want to help you through your journey and help raise that money for you.
Talking about employers helping you out, if your employer doesn't have anything in place, you can definitely advocate for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Does Wendy's still do that?
Oh, yes.
The Wendy's adoption thing, my company that I worked for at the time had nothing, and so I started campaigning. I didn't get any money from them per se, but they did agree to give me so many weeks off, full pay, then I went to half pay, so I did achieve something, so now hopefully that's still going.
Well, and for even with our credit union, here we were doing adoption loans and we didn't do anything for our own staff, to encourage them, for adoption. So we advocated to our own management team and said we need to have something that, if one of our employees were to adopt, and we did have an employee go through the foster to adopt program, so we were able to help him out. And then just recently, I advocated for those that are, choosing foster care. It's still time that you need to take off to bond with a child. There's still expenses bringing a child into your home. So we offer something that's completely separate, for foster parents as well.
Wendy's adoption thing, don't they have like letters and things to help you along? It's been so long since
Yeah, well, Wendy's is, huge advocate of adoption. And so there are, I think if you go to their site, there are different resources. Yeah.
help me kind of advocate for myself.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it doesn't, it doesn't hurt to ask. I mean, just, this is something you go to them. I know there's a lot of companies out there, especially if you can find something in your field, and, some, maybe a competitor offers something, as a benefit, to talk about, so-and-so's offering this as an adoption, benefit. Have we ever thought about that? So it's a lot of times it's just people aren't thinking about it. Like I said, even our own, credit union who does adoption loans didn't think to offer it as a benefit to our staff. And so now we do. But, so that's pretty much it. On there we have our 800 number. Like I said, I have business cards that you can contact me directly. I also have about four or five of us that are loan officers that can walk you through the process. Sometimes people want to get pre-approved. If you haven't even done your home study, sometimes that's even an obstacle that there's, a need for financing of that. We can help out with that as well. But we can also just take the time to talk to you guys about your whole financial picture and see if, if an adoption loan is what you're going to need, or is there a way that we can help you kind of get prepared for that. Okay? So I think that's it. Can I turn this off? Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
All right.